and welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast. My next guest has an unusual history, which I'm sure he won't mind talking about. What attracted me to him was his LinkedIn about page, and you must all go and read it. He says, I have over 10 years experience filling top of funnel activities in sales development, managed service space, digital marketing and technology. I'm not hunting for new business. I can be found in the gym or on my 40-foot sea ray boat enjoying a cold craft beer or fine scotch. And I thought, I need to speak to this guy. I loved it. And I'm sure he'll talk about the importance of LinkedIn and showing your personality, because he certainly does that for companies and much, much more. He's known as the outbound sales guy. So please welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Martin MacArthur.
Thanks, Janice. It's a pleasure to be here today with you, and really excited to dive into the conversation that's ahead today, and really excited to be here.
Well, first of all, let's talk about what happened to you at 7, because, as I said in the introduction, you've got quite an unusual history. You were diagnosed with, if I pronounce this right, retinitis pigmentosa, which meant
retinitis pigmentosa.
Sorry, say that again?
Retinitis pigmentosa. You're very close.
Pigmentosa. So, that must have been pretty devastating. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was, at 7 years old, you're still kind of navigating life, and your brain doesn't really understand the severity of that aspect. So, I had a while transitioning, and fortunately, I have incredible parents and sisters that provided an extremely strong support system to help me navigate those early years of figuring out how to cope with such a traumatic, if you want to call it traumatic, but a life-altering event such as going blind. Because before I was diagnosed, I did have a bit of vision, and I could see somewhat, but it was obviously very difficult. And then it got to the point where it's like, okay, my parents said, we need to go and have you checked out because there's something going on here. And that just kind of snowballed from test to doctors and specialists and so on. And they diagnosed that I have a hereditary disease called retinitis pigmentosa. It affects the retina, and there's 2 stages. There's juvenile and there's adult RP. And so I was diagnosed with juvenile, which comes on at an early age, and gradually my sight decreased from having a bit of vision to I guess it was around 18, 19, maybe 20, somewhere around there, where I got to the point where I am today of only being able to see the difference between dark and light. So if it's really bright in a room or bright outside, I can determine that, or if it's really dark, I can determine that. Other than that, I'm not able to see anything.
So doing what you do, technology must be your godsend.
Early on, it was a challenge because technology wasn't quite as advanced or as rapid as it is today. So when I was going through school and in college and so forth, I had to purchase expensive pieces of software and technology because there wasn't the boom of software as a service where you could subscribe to a monthly service. You had to go out and spend thousands of dollars on adaptive software because it's a very limited market. So early on, it was very expensive. And then when the dot-com era happened and Apple arrived on the scene, for whatever reason, they included in all their operating system, whether it's iOS or macOS, an accessibility feature called VoiceOver that reads everything. It's a screen reader that reads everything on the screen back to me. And so that meant that, you know, I can just be like a regular consumer, go to Best Buy, go to the Apple store, purchase a MacBook or an iPad, out of the box, set it up in an hour or 2 hours, whatever the case is, and I'm able to navigate and go on my own way. So I give immense kudos to the developers at Apple for whatever the reasoning was for them to develop and be such an inclusive company.
And, you know, it's a shame that this isn't across the board with all companies really thinking about how they can make all of their technology adaptive to all people. Even from, you know, scissors left and right, you know, really simple thing that we've had to live with for a long time. It's so simple, isn't it, really? And if you do it at the beginning, it's a lot less of an investment if it's something that companies have as part of their whole ecosystem. So thank you.
Exactly. And to address that point, when we're talking about sales, and I'm sure we'll dive deeper into this later in the episode, but there, you know, the sales tech stack, there's so many tools out there that, unfortunately, and this is not, you know, anything negative towards those organizations, because they're well-respected organizations, and a lot of the companies I deeply value and respect, but there's only a few of those platforms that I'm able to use because their platforms work with my accessibility. Not every platform out there will work with my accessibility, and I understand that because you know, it's a limited space of how many sales professionals are blind or have some type of a other disability.
If you had a wish list, or what companies, what platforms, what stack would you like to use that you cannot currently use? Because you never know, they might be listening, they might be, you know, wanting someone to kind of test this out for them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if there's you know, there's a lot of similar technologies that are out there. So, you know, if you're talking about the sales engagement space, a platform that is the behemoth in the space is Outreach, and unfortunately, Outreach just is not accessible with my technology. But the other players like SalesLoft and VanillaSoft, those platforms are. So when I'm investing in that type of technology, I don't consider Outreach, and that's not anything negative towards Outreach. It's just, if I'm going to be frustrated day in, day out, and it's a platform I need to be using, you know, 100% of the time, why would I go and invest in that technology, be frustrated, and not be very productive?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I was hoping to, you know, say, well, I know that person in the company. I'm going to put you in contact with them.
Fortunately, when I was in the process of selecting different vendors and so forth for my company, a few companies that I've worked with in the past, I knew they worked, so I went ahead and went forward with those companies. A couple others, they were gracious enough to allow me to perform some test trials and sandbox type environments. So, you know, we can figure out, is this going to be worthwhile? Is it going to be a good investment, a bad investment? Do I need to move on?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's delve into sales. Perhaps, talk more about the kind of service that you offer your customers and your ideal customers.
Yeah. So the type of service that I offer is basically is outsourced sales development as a service. Everything from working with a founder or CEO, co-founder of a pre-seed up to Series A company. And in those Series A, that could also include the head of sales, revenue, marketing, depending on those different personas. And we'll run through the entire gambit of identifying and mapping the total addressable market. Who is it that you want to reach out to and have conversations with? What's the messaging that needs to be created to resonate with those prospects and break through the crowded, noisy landscape? And then the tech, provide the tech stack to be able to automate or accelerate getting in front of these individuals. And then basically just contacting and following up and booking a qualified sales meeting for those individuals so that they can continue to do what they do best, whether that is continue working on their product or service, meeting with investors, preparing for funding, whatever that whatever those priorities are that they need to focus on, and not have to worry about the heavy lifting of filling their pipeline and generating revenue.
Excellent, excellent. You should listen to the podcast that I did with Christy Jones, who works with Series A founders and accelerates the growth. So I think you both have a lot in common. But I wanted to ask you, what's your view in the kind of B2B sales? Do you think it's shifted enough to be buyer-centric? Is that something you talk to many of your Series A founders and entrepreneurs about, focusing in on what value you offer their particular customers, and so that you can develop the messaging that's right for the customer to get them into the top of the funnel?
When I'm speaking with a founder, co-founder of a company, and we're discussing what type of messaging to work on to craft that is going to be compelling enough and resonate with the prospects, I like to take more of a problem-centric selling view. So what are the problems that your prospects are facing? What's really frustrating them day in, day out, and how can you help alleviate and remove those bottlenecks, that frustration? So how are you going to do this? Why are you doing it? What makes your product, your service, your platform, whatever, what makes it so great that it's going to just really capture this individual's attention to be able to say, I need your help right now.
Okay. All right. So what if you had one practical strategy, and I know that you've got lots, but which one would you choose to help business owners, Series A, growth companies, to enable their buyers to buy and enable them to build long-term relationships?
That's a great question. So when I'm meeting with these individuals, I like to take them through how to prioritize their prospects, because a lot of the times they'll spend countless hours wasted on non-selling activities, right? Because they're either afraid or don't want to pick up the phone or send out that email, face rejection, a whole host of reluctance issues there, right? So I like to work with the prospect to identify the prospects based on priorities. So what are those priorities look like? So is this a prospect that's going to say yes, not, today? Is it someone that's saying no? And if they're saying no, can we find out why that's no? Is the prospect saying, hey, no, I'm not the right person, but you need to speak to Sally over in HR because she's the right person to speak to? Or no, we just signed an agreement with this software company last month. We're in a 6-month agreement with them. We just spent a bunch of money. Maybe follow up with us in 5 months, right? So when you start to prioritize each prospect, then you'll start to focus in and accelerate which prospects you can start to follow up and have conversations with, and which ones you shouldn't be wasting time and energy on today.
Mm. There are some that would say that the F word, funnels, and top of funnel, and the way that we're pouring these people in, you kind of lose some of the personality. You lose value in the relationship because it becomes very systematic in that you're throwing people in, and they're talking, it's a numbers game, and there isn't that kind of real personal connection. What would you say to that?
I would say that you need to continue to accelerate some of the process, right? With the process of putting people into the funnel, right? And at the top of the funnel. Also, though, you should be incorporating LinkedIn as a part of your outbound mix. I know a lot of people use it for inbound as well. However, if you're using LinkedIn as a part of your outbound sales process, your prospects can start to they can start to get to know you as an individual. They get to know and understand your personality. If you are being authentic, you're being transparent, you're being honest, vulnerable, demonstrating some humility. And by doing that over time, it's not going to materialize today or maybe next week, but in possibly 30 days and 3 months, 6 months down the line, by continue to be engaged and relevant, your prospects will start to follow you back, and then they'll start to be like, okay, this is someone that I want to learn more about and want to do, potentially do business with, because they've been putting out this great content. They actually know what they're talking about. They seem to have a lot of great recommendations, etc.
Okay, all right. Let's switch it up a little bit and talk about your view on diversity. In the B2B selling industry, do you think it's progressed? What's your kind of personal view?
So I like to try and stay away from challenging topics such as diversity and so forth. However, I do feel that slowly the landscape in sales is changing from the old school ways of selling and doing business. So, like the typical stereotypes of, Wolf of Wall Street and Glengarry Glen Ross, those types of scenarios, I think we're slowly transitioning away from. You're starting to see a lot more female leaders, which is awesome. We need more, and we need male and female champions for these for these incredible women to rise up and help them level up. So I do feel that it's slowly changing, but it needs to increase.
Hmm. Okay. So how have people viewed you? Because obviously you use technologies that enable you to do a great job, but you know, people have various perceptions about your abilities because of your site. So how do you think you have been viewed?
Overall, I from people that I've heard from and comments that I read and so forth, I feel that I'm viewed very positively. I don't think I think my blindness is something that people um, either they admire or they look past, so it's not an issue for them. Unfortunately, there are a few that it is an issue for them, and you know that's fair enough. If it's an issue for them, then quite frankly, that's someone I don't want to do business with. So I'll give you a great example. Uh, Back in I think it was July, I reached out to a sales leader at a company, and they referred me to someone else in their organization, the correct person. And I sent them a one-to-one video using Vidyard and an email. And the person responded to my email saying, you know, basically saying, we're not interested, blah, blah, blah. Just some, you know, perhaps next time if you look directly into the camera, then, you know, you'd maybe be able to connect a little more personally to me. You know, something, it was a little, maybe a little harsher than that, but
Yeah.
I quickly responded and said, FYI, I'm totally blind. So thanks for the response. Have a great day. Because that frankly is someone that I don't want to do business with.
Yeah.
If you can't be respectful, and you know whether that is, you know, I understand you may not know I'm blind or not, although they should have, because they viewed my profile on LinkedIn. It
Mm.
says right there in my bio that I am blind. So either you're too lazy to read the bio, um, but that's just, you know, someone I don't want to do business with. So and I had another individual last year tell me something along the same lines, that you know they claim to be a LinkedIn expert or guru, and said that, you know, you need to change your bio because, you know, if I'm a business professional and I see that you're blind, I don't know if I want to, if I have the trust in your ability. So whatever, you know, okay, that's fine. Then have a great day. We don't need to do business together.
I'm astounded by, I mean, I'm astounded anyway, but certainly by the second one, the kind of LinkedIn guru. You know, this is why I was attracted to your bio, because of your forthright, straight up honesty. It is what it is. And the fact that you showed your personality. That's why I wanted you on. So, yeah, it's just amazes me, but actually it's quite nice. I've said to people in the past that you want to know as early as possible the people that are not in your tribe. So, you know, you really want to know the people that don't like you, but, you know, because we spend so much time trying to do business, and actually they're never going to buy from you. They're never going to like that for whatever reason, and it's often nothing to do with you. It's what's going on in their own head. But you want to find it out as early as possible. So yeah, that's a great story, in a really, really good story for everyone to listen to. So, Martin.
And you don't have to like each other to do business. It
No.
helps if you do, and it helps if you have similar personalities, or if your personalities are aligned. However, you need to, as you're saying, you need to know. And for me, I want to know early on: are you someone that I can do business with? Are you someone that I can get along with, or are you going to be someone that's difficult? You're going to be basically a real big pain to deal with, because if
Yeah.
you are, tell me now so we can save each other a lot of time and energy, and we go on our own way.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, these people are representing their companies. It's not just them. They're a representative of the company. And yeah,
Exactly.
that's kind of a very sad course of events, really.
Yep.
So I want to know, if you're on a desert island on your own, what one thing would you take with you?
Oh, what one thing would I take with me? Oh, that's such a toughie. Because it always changes and so forth. But I would say if I'm on a deserted island, I'd want to take my my iPhone so I can have music.
Yeah.
I find I always have some sort of music on in the background. Just whether I'm at home, I'm out, wherever, I always have music. So I would say that.
Okay. So tell me why your dad is your hero.
Yeah, he's always a huge champion of mine. He gives me honest feedback when I want it or don't want it.
They're like
And
that, aren't they?
yeah, exactly. And you know, he's always been there to support me. So that's definitely why he's my hero. And he's he's had a lot. You know, he's owned a lot of businesses, and he's been in different leadership and executive roles. So he's someone that I can also lean on from a business and professional standpoint, not just a personal standpoint.
Excellent. That's lovely. Lovely. So how can listeners get hold of you, Martin?
Best way to connect and reach out is either on LinkedIn. You can search The Outbound Sales Guy, or you can email me, Martin, Martin, at theoutboundsalesguide.com.
Lovely, lovely. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on Scale Your Sales podcast. Thank you for being so honest and forthright, but I knew I'd get that because I read your LinkedIn profile. So it's been a real honor. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Janice, for having me, and it has been a real pleasure.